480 Marines were written off. Command said, "Stand down." One woman sniper refused. A broken watch. An empty wallet. A dusty road to the trapped. This is how Sopiha Murphy disobeyed orders and turned a doomed night into a fight for every life. The watch on Sopiha Murphy's wrist was broken. The glass was cracked. The second hand stuck at Odu 17. It matched the hour her last order came through. Hold position. Await extraction. Do not proceed. That order tasted like chalk. Her scope showed the basin beyond the ridge, a scar in the earth. Trees burned to wire. Smoke lay like a ceiling. The trapped unit was inside. 480 Marines crammed against a line of rock and dirt that should never have been a wall. Radios hissing with ruin. Mics open with breath alone. Names counted in a whisper and then counted again just to keep them from vanishing. She asked permission to move. Twice. The net came back cold. Command repeated the script. Not feasible. Air denied. Road compromised. They were already shifting the map to write a clean report for a dirty choice. It angered her in a quiet way that did not rattle her hands. It tightened her focus instead. Her finger checked the safety by habit. Her cheek found the stock again. The wind was steady. The stars were dull. The night had that iron taste that means it can be cut if you try. Her empty wallet dug into her hip where she had tucked it under the plate carrier. It carried nothing now. Not cash, not cards. The last bill had gone to a farmer on the dusty road who had handed over a tin of water when commands were still making sense. She had kept the wallet because emptiness has a weight, and she needed to feel that weight. It kept her honest. It kept the picture slot empty, too. She had decided long ago not to carry faces she could not save. 480 still up? She whispered across a secondary net. No protocol. No encryption. Just a voice that could be anyone in the dark. A voice came back. Anchor here. Dry, measured. Life packed into 2 syllables. We're held at the north shelf. Ammo is bones. Med is out. They're reading us off. She breathed once. I see you. Do not come, Anchor said. They mind the only road. They have armor moving from east. 2, maybe 3. The ridge to our west is painted. We're a lesson someone wants to teach. Sopiha adjusted her scope. The valley breathed. The enemy moved like tide. Trucks hummed without lights. Men drifted around the vehicles, small shadows inside a larger one. A generator coughed somewhere back of the basin. A radio tower blinked once, then again, a weak red pulse like a heartbeat you could choose to forget. Her thumb touched the watch and found the broken minute hand. It did not move beneath her skin. Time had made its choice. She would make hers. Anchor, she said. Count your wounded. Count your runners. When I say move, you go to the west cut. Don't argue. Don't wait. Silence. Then, who are you? She had to smile. Names are Anchor's too, but hers had always floated. A shooter, she said. A bad listener. She slid back from the ridge and slipped down toward the dusty road. It curled like a snake through scrub and ruin. A thin, pale line under thin, pale moon. Dust climbed into the night with every step. It stuck to the sweat at her neck and turned her skin to grit. The road had no comfort in it, but it did have direction. It ran where men had to run if they wanted to live. She passed the farmer's fence, empty. The tin lay on a post, dented and dry. She touched it with 2 fingers. The metal felt like the watch glass. Unforgiving, a hum from the south. She flattened against the ditch. Headlights flicked through the trees. A patrol truck rolled by. 2 men in front. One in back with a mounted gun and a loose jaw. They were joking about something they would not have joked about if they knew she lay 5 paces away. The truck's tires crushed a line of ants that had not understood roads were not made for them. The ants kept moving anyway. Little black commas in a sentence no one read. She cut cross-country toward the old concrete plant. It had a chimney left. It had a flat roof. It had a view. She climbed using rebar like a ladder and pushed the rifle forward first like a promise. The night sat heavily around her as if it wanted to be left alone. She did not apologize. She set the bipod, checked elevation, and dialed her scope to 10x. There he was, the enemy company officer or what passed for one here. Stiff shoulders, clean boots, a radio clipped high. He leaned over a map on the hood of a truck. Fingers tapped points where men would die. Around him were 6 others, looser, younger, trying to smoke without showing flame. The shot would open the whole problem like a can. It would also start the clock. She needed 1 hour of chaos, maybe 2. Maybe she could turn the hour hand on her broken watch by force. Her throat was dry. She drank the last warm swallow and set the bottle down by the chimney. Right beside the wallet. She needed the pocket empty now. She needed to be light. Anchor, she whispered. When the lights go, move. What lights? He asked. She exhaled. The reticle settled. The rifle found its center. She did not aim at the officer's skull. She aimed at the radio clipped to his vest. Her finger took up the slack. The trigger broke like a twig under a careful boot. The radio detonated into the map with a burst of sparks and a shout, and a sudden flare arced up from the basin, bright and violent, thrown by a hand she did not know. Someone down there had just lit up the sky. Someone she could not see had just told the night she was here. The flare hissed and spat and hung. White light poured down the bowl of the basin and turned every rock into a witness. Mendove, the company officer, fell back. He slapped at sparks on his chest and clawed for a spare mic. Voices jammed the net. Orders piled on orders. None of them could stand. Sopiha blinked the afterimage out of her eye and caught the important thing. A thin cable slung from the tower to the command truck. A field repeater. That cable was the spine. If she cut it, the shouting would break into a dozen separate throats that could not agree on what the lungs were for. She put the crosshair on the cable and sent a quiet round. The wire snapped with a soft jerk. The command truck died. Screens went dark. A man inside slammed a dashboard with the same hand that would have signed a report at dawn. Anchor, she said, low. Now, no answer. Anchor, she said again. Lights out means move, static, the kind that tastes bitter, the kind that tells you someone has their mouth covered, or someone is under something heavy. She pulled the rifle close and crawled off the roof. Rebar bit her palms. Concrete dust turned her tongue to slate. Every sound of her boots felt like it could betray a city. She got to the ground and ran aslant through scrub toward an old minaret broken off at half height. From there she would see the west cut, a crease in the ridge that looked like a fold in a map. It was the only pass a human could cross without a rope. Halfway there, a boy stepped out onto the road. He was maybe 9, maybe 10. He carried a bucket with no bottom. He wore a shirt that had once said a team name in a language he did not speak. His hair was dust. His feet were dust. His eyes were clean and curious and far too calm. He lifted a hand. Soldier, he said in a thin voice. Not a question, she slowed. She did not point the rifle at him. She did not point it away either. Neutrals keep you alive. You shouldn't be out, she said. My mother sent me, he said. She says you pay for water. Sopiha's hand went to the pocket. Empty wallet. She knew it and still looked. We look anyway. I have nothing, she said. The boy took a breath. Tiny shoulders rose. It is not for money, he said. She says you pay in tomorrow. Not today. He put the bucket down and stood on it to make himself taller. It made no difference. He lifted his arm and pointed. Not at the minaret. Not at the pass. He pointed at a small break in a wall, almost a wound with vines like veins. Short way, he said. People do not go there. There are bees. He said bees like a spell that protects against worse things. She stepped up, took the bucket by reflex, then set it back down. No bottom. It felt like the wallet had felt when she first learned it was empty. She knelt and touched the boy's shoulder in thanks and moved for the gap. Bees. There were bees. A hive inside a fallen pipe hummed with a sound like a throat trying not to cry. She walked slow. Bees taste fear. They move with it. She moved like stone. She came out behind the minaret, closer than she would have been, faster than she had a right to be. The west cut lay below her. In the flare afterglow, it looked like a mouth trying hard not to open. Figures gathered in its teeth. Marines, packs half full, bandages tied with belts, rifles taped and retaped. She could see the shape of leadership and how they clustered without words. What kept you? Said Anchor's voice in her ear. Relief, raw and small. I lost you. Short way, she said. Bees, a small laugh, more breath than sound. Copy. Movement to the east. The armor they had feared. 2 shapes with engines that made the ground a rumor. They did not hurry. They did not need to. They had mass on their side. The first had a dozer blade. It would make a road where there was none. It would teach the rocks to serve. She scanned past it and saw something worse. A man standing on a truck bed, a band tied on his arm, a radio in hand. And on his wrist, white tape with letters written in marker. Anchor. Sopiha's mouth went dry. Her hands did not. She tracked past him and back. The white tape was deliberate. It was the call sign of the man in the basin. Someone up here knew someone down there. New names, new positions, knew the way units breathe when no one official is listening. A traitor, or at least a man who had traded. He pointed now toward the west cut. He spoke into his radio and watched the pass as if waiting for a game to start. "Anchor," she said. "You have a leak. Someone's selling your breath." "Understood," he said, voice suddenly flat. Not surprised. Not quite. "Can you take him?" She could. But the column mattered more. She needed minutes. She needed the road to stay a question. She needed to make the armor doubt itself, if only because men doubt heavier than machines do. She put the crosshair on the lead vehicle's vision block. That would get their attention. Not disable, just blind enough to make them rethink. Then she would cut the bandman's radio. Then she would think about debts. Her finger settled. A new sound entered the night. Thin at first, growing, the sound of rotors that moved faster than the air. It came from high and to the south. It turned the smoke to river. "Anchor," said a voice, not anchor. Clean. Remote. It filled the net with a clarity that felt like judgment. "This is command. Hold positions. All elements remain cold. Fire mission inbound to basin. Grid as follows." Sopiha listened as they read numbers that would bury 480 men where they lay. She took a breath that hurt and made a choice that would not unmake itself. She pivoted the rifle, found the tower's small blinking heart again and tightened on the trigger, and a hand closed over her mouth from behind. The hand smelled of iron dust and old soap. It pressed steady, not brutal. The voice at her ear was low and female and had the patience a field medic learns and then never loses. "Don't shoot that," the voice said. "Shoot the base." Sopia's body had already decided to break the grip. It paused because the voice had offered precision. Precision is a language she trusts. The grip loosened. She looked back without showing her face above the stone. A woman knelt at her shoulder in a stained jacket. A red cross painted long ago had peeled to a pink X. Her eyes were the color of wet earth. Calm. Set. "Why?" Sophia asked, also low. "The tower's guide into the ground," the medic said. "One spike is rusted through. Hit the bracket. Gravity does the rest. Faster than cutting the wire and cleaner than killing men you don't need to kill." "How do you know?" "I fixed a boy's arm there this afternoon," the medic said. "People talk around pain." Sopiha looked again. The tower rose like a nail someone had hammered into an unwilling hill. At its base, 3 metal angles held the weight. One was clean. One was new. One had a stain at the weld that looked like old blood. She put the reticle there. She broke the shot. The bracket jumped. Metal sang. The tower leaned. The red blink became a smeared ribbon. "I need one more," she whispered. The medic touched her elbow. "Wait for the wind." They waited. It came, a small push of air that would not carry a seed far but would lean a spar. Sophia sent the second round. The tower lost its argument with the sky. It came down slow and loud, a collapse with dignity. It did not break at once. It bent and then failed in the middle like a man accepting a truth late and with grace. When it struck the ground, the command truck's antennae bowed as if saluting. "Anchor," she breathed. "Move now." This time his reply was instant and warm. Moving. Figures poured toward the west, cut in lines that did not tangle. They had rehearsed this escape in their heads for hours. Now feet made it real. Someone hoisted a man with a leg like a club. Someone gave away his last magazine to a Marine whose hand shook. Someone kept count and someone else kept count of the counting. The armor paused. Their radios had gone from cathedral to alley. The banded man on the truck barked into his mic and did not like the thin sound that came back. He pointed at the pass again and jumped down, gesturing angry circles. He was about to send a squad into that narrow mouth. Sophia aimed for his radio as she had with the officer. Before she could press, the sky changed. A heavy aircraft rolled overhead, masked by clouds too high to see. The voice from command kept reading numbers in a tone that belonged to a clean conference room, not a dirty night. You could do terrible things with a voice like that if you never left your chair. "Abort," Sophia said into the net. Not a request. A verdict. No one at command heard her or wanted to. The medic flinched beside her and then steadied in the way medics do when they have found the edge of choice. Sophia rolled onto her back, tore the straps from her broken watch, and popped the case with the corner of her knife. The battery was a coin, small, ugly, precious. She pried it out. Her hands moved like she had promised them to someone else. "What are you doing?" the medic asked. "Power," Sophia said. She dug into her pouch and pulled a tiny throat mic and a field transmitter the size of a butter cookie. Its battery had died in the march. She slotted the watch battery. The light winked alive, a tiny green pupil watching her choose. She keyed into the emergency net. Not command, not the unit. The emergency band is a thin river between rocks. It goes where rules thought no one would go. "This is Murphy," she said. First time she had said her name tonight. She let it sit. Aborting friendly fire on grid 287/119. Basin occupied by own forces. 480, confirm, repeat, abort, abort. Voices flooded in. Some spoke codes. Some spoke curses. Some asked her to identify a key she did not have. Only one spoke plain. "Murphy, say again the grid," said a pilot with a voice that belonged to someone's good neighbor. "My map says empty." "My eyes say not," she gave the numbers. She gave them twice. The medic pressed 2 fingers into the inside of Sophia's wrist. It was not for comfort. It counted her pulse so someone would know if she was lying to herself. "Copy," said the pilot. "I'm painting it now. I'm seeing helmets." Sophia did not breathe. "Confirm own forces," the pilot said. And in that moment he was the only adult in a room of children. He did not drop. He circled. He burned fuel to buy seconds. Seconds are what hope spends. He had enough for a handful. A second voice cut in. Sharper. "This is Strike Lead. We have our tasking. We see no blue force beacon. Blue force beacons are down," Sophia snapped, which was the kind of snap that gets you put on a list later. "They're carrying men with tourniquets and dry canteens. You want a blue beacon? Look for the ones who are still trying to stand." Silence except for rotors and engines and the night. "Strike Lead," said the neighbor voice at last. "We're going to hold 1 minute for confirmation. 1 minute doesn't end the war." The medic let out the breath she had been keeping like a small jewel. She touched Sophia's shoulder once and then let go. A tracer stitched the rim of the pass. The banded man had sent his squad. They were running for the bottleneck. Men at the mouth of the west cut dug in with whatever they had. Sandbags that were just dirt and canvas. Belief that was just math done forward. Sophia rolled and put her crosshair above the lead runner's knee. She did not kill him. She taught him a lesson his mother should have taught him if he had ever listened. He fell and screamed and created a small wall of sound men do not like to climb. The squad broke. The banded man cursed. He called more. He thought mass would erase shape. It often does. It would not tonight, Anchor, she said. You're going to get 1 minute of sky and 10 minutes of confusion. Use both like they are gifts. Copy, he said. I count 390 moving. 80 still down. 10 I can't see. We'll carry who we can. Carry all you can't, she said. It was a cruel sentence. It was true, the medic tugged her sleeve. I have a van with bright lights and no brakes, she said. It can carry 8. Maybe 9 if one is small. You like beehives? I like vans that smell like onions. You drive, Sophia said. The emergency net crackled. This is Strike Lead, the sharp voice said, strained. We have abort from higher. Confirm abort. Holding fire. The sky did not fall, the earth tried to make up for it. A mortar dropped short and punched a hole in the slope where a man had just stood. Dirt rained like dark rain. Someone laughed because laughing is a way to keep the pieces of yourself from rattling apart. Sopiha put 2 rounds into a rangefinder on a hill and watched. A man stare at the broken tool in his hands as if it had betrayed a childhood vow. She shot the tires on a pickup and kept it from becoming a machine. She felt the minute end. Strike Lead fuel state? She asked on the emergency net. It was not her business. It had become her business, hungry, the neighbor voice admitted. Go, she said. Thank you. Another voice boomed in. Not command. Not pilots, different. Close. The kind of transmit that sits in a truck with armor too clean to be trusted. Unidentified shooter interfering with fire mission. It barked. Cease transmissions immediately or be treated as hostile. The medic looked at her, neither surprised nor upset. You broke the rule, she said. Sophia nodded. I will break a few more. She slung the rifle, grabbed her pack, and started down a path that was not a path yet. She would make it one with her boots. At the edge of the minaret's shadow, a man stepped into her way. He had the band. He had the radio. He had a grin that belonged on a different night. He spread his hands as if offering a dance, and somewhere behind him a safety clicked off. The banded man's grin was an animal thing that did not know it was in a story. He lifted the radio as if it were a blessing. He began to speak, but a voice behind him spoke first. "Drop it," said the medic, calm, cold as the inside of a bottle in winter. She held a small pistol at hip height. Her knuckles were pale. The weapon looked ridiculous in her hand. It looked like a lie. The lie was that she would not use it.